and welcome back to Bedecked in the Burbs. I'm Beck, and on today's episode, we are going to be doing something that I haven't done in a while. We are going to be interviewing an author about her new book, but we don't just talk about her new book. We cover everything from fashion, clothes, what to wear, health, weight loss, Halloween, horror movies. We cover a lot of ground. This author is Michele Tracy Berger, and Michele is a professor. She's a coach. The name of her business is The Creative Tickle, which is adorable. And now she's an award-winning published author. Her new book, Doll Seed, which is a collection of short stories, was released on October 1st. So it is available to purchase right now on Amazon. I will have that link in the description. When I first established this channel, I had 5 types of videos I was doing, and I was pretty strict in keeping to a schedule. And one of the 5 types of videos I was doing was an interview, whether it was with an author, a photographer, a makeup artist, something that could help with business or branding or stuff like that. So I have a handful of these interviews from years ago, but Michele approached me and said, "Hey, I noticed you haven't done one of these in a while. My book's coming out. Would you want to, do something? Do an episode?" I'm like, "Yes, absolutely yes. Let's do it." Yeah, this is like an old school Bedecked episode, but with some styling at the end. During the interview, I get some ideas of what kind of things she would like to wear, and she mentions that she's going on a book tour in person. So I, at the end of the episode, have come up with some styling ideas that she could use on her book tour. So be sure to stay to the end and I will go over those ideas that I sent her for her outfits. Anyway, check out the interview and then at the end you'll see my styling ideas. Yeah, I met you 3 years ago now at the Career Author Summit. I guess that's what they were calling it. And that was like the first time I was pitching my author stylist business. And you were probably one of the first people I pitched it to. And you sounded interested, like it would have been a good idea.
It was a great idea.
It was a great idea. Since then, I've talked to a couple of different stylists and authors and such, and it seems like maybe authors don't want it or feel like they need it. But yeah, I'm still definitely pursuing styling, at least small business owners and entrepreneurs and stuff like that.
Which is awesome. And I think it also is just building out your business locally and then growing it, in different ways and working with creatives. So it could be like creative entrepreneurs, not necessarily authors, but people who value, I think trying to find what the pain point or pressure point is.
From the couple times I've met you, you always seem very put together and polished. So what's your style philosophy? What do you think about when you get dressed?
Oh my goodness, such a great question. I think it depends on, well, in a previous stage of life, I was primarily a professor and teaching and doing research. And so I really did think about trying to interrupt that idea of the frumpy professor, right? Because also people have an idea of what a professor or instructor looks like. And so wanting to go a little bit differently. A former colleague told me that she thought my style was new age business.
New age business. I've never heard that. New age business.
I never heard of it either, because I would usually wear like a chunky crystal or amethyst, some chunky thing, and then like have a more tailored look. And I would say, now that I'm in a more administrative role, even though I'm still a professor, I do a lot of social events. We host a lot of things. So I'm much more conscious of, I personally like a more tailored look. So I'm never like the Eileen Fisher, J. Jill person, because while I like those styles for other people, they don't work for me. So I'm usually thinking, how can I be comfortable, be a little glamorous, and be sort of professional in a fun way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I know the oversized look is so in right now, but I'm like, I don't think it's for me. I'll let my teenage daughter wear that. So what are some?
And I'm petite too, so
yeah, right.
You're tall from what I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah,
Yes.
So you have different things to think about.
So what are some of your favorite brands to wear?
It's a little challenging right now because 2 years ago I embarked on this program called Precision Nutrition, and it's it's a program that is about nutrition, but it's really about mindset. And I did it to help me jumpstart my fitness again.
Mhm.
And from that, it's all about, eating well, which I already did, but really thinking about consistency, building consistency and habits. So in 2022, I started it, and then in 2023, went back as an alum. And I went from a petite size, I would say 6 to 8, to now a 0 to 2.
Mhm.
So it's completely changed my sense of wardrobe. I've actually had to, um, really kind of get clothes tailored and move things around. I would say Talbot's is for me a go-to. The House of White and Black.
Mhm.
There's a couple of British labels. I also use Stitch Fix, and I use Short Story, which are both short story. The short story box is curated for petite women under
Oh,
5'4", and they're out of San Francisco, a little bit younger, I think, an entrepreneurial team. So I look at what they use, and so they often work with some British labels and Ann Taylor.
yeah.
So more conventional things. And when I'm traveling and I can go to boutiques, and boutiques that also have kind of petite lines available, I'm very happy to do that. I've also just discovered, as last thing that I love is Athleta and
Mhm.
Cozy Earth and Quince.
Oh, quince. I've heard so much about quince, but I haven't tried
Oh,
them yet. I need to.
Quince. And moving from North Carolina to now I live in Ohio, cashmere and other really high quality fabrics that are accessible. I think you're going to like it.
Yeah, I'll have to do an
I'm not
episode
a
on it.
representative. I wish I
Yeah,
was.
I know, right? Quince, call Michelle. Okay, so well, first, congrats on losing the weight and getting healthier and stuff like that. I went through a similar health journey in 2022 and lost a bunch of
Hmm,
weight.
that's
Unfortunately,
it.
I gained it all back and then some. So, what's some advice you have for like sustaining that kind of lifestyle?
Mm. It is a process. Um, and for me, I think cultivating the bigger why. So I in 2018 was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and I was put on like many people, on a sort of, I was put on a low dose of blood pressure medication, and off and on, like I had to switch medications from 2018 to about 2022, and I just was like, I really want to manage stress, develop my fitness, bring everything together so that eventually I could go off of it. And so that was my big why. I would say one of the things I learned from Precision Nutrition, or PN, is finding fun and consistency, because I was definitely much more of a binge and also intensity person around fitness. And so cultivating like the daily, the weekly was just not in my wheelhouse. So I would kind of go from, I feel like I was a sort of a healthy oriented person prior to that, but I couldn't sustain a level of fitness and health. And for me, I'm not I have not been officially diagnosed as ADD or ADHD, but as someone who's a menopausal woman now, and some of the hormonal changes, I definitely feel like breaking things down to planning and prepping and making that fun really helped me on my health journey, because I was already eating the right things, doing the right things, but not just kind of scheduling things that were non-negotiable.
So, how do you make it fun?
I think so. Having the big why, remembering the big why is important. And then for me, the fun part was they asked us to do a vision board, and I did that on Instagram, which I usually am a tactile person. I usually do something, but I kind of have this Instagram board, excuse me, not Pinterest board, so I can go to that and look and remind myself, which is helpful. Um, I'm a big reward person, and so this even goes into writing, and this doesn't always work for people, but I'm like, okay, if I go so many days doing this, I get to have a reward. It could be watching, an hour of TV when I don't usually do that on a certain day. So for a while, doing the rewards were really helpful because I had, obviously you have to shop, you have to prep. So all those greens and veggies and fruits that you get, if you're not sometimes prepping them on a Saturday and Sunday to get them ready and knowing what you're going to eat, then it can become really chaotic. And I'm sure, especially people with kids and other routines. So for me, doing that on Sunday meant like, oh, I could also have a little reward later on Sunday night for something fun. So I'm a big like do things and then give yourself a little bit of a reward, or how can you shop for things that you really are going to enjoy cooking or managing during that time. I also, this is spending a little bit of money, but also started to upgrade. I had crazy athletic wear. I don't know if this is true for you, but things that, just t-shirt, you can work out in anything, which is fine. But I just started to say, oh, well, I want to look a certain way and feel a certain way now that my body's changing. So that was also something that kept me engaged because I just really enjoyed the reward was kind of putting on something fun and lovely to work out in.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Well, so where are you in your health journey? So you went through, I know you went through the transformation and then kind of gain weight and then are kind of coming out of that, or
Yeah.
what's working for you, or how are you thinking about things?
So I wanted to lose weight in 2020 because I was turning 40 in 2023. So I'm like, I want to look a certain way when I turn 40. And I did. And that was cool. And then I had several vacations after that. And I kind of just let things get away from me. And I really enjoy working out. I enjoy weightlifting and going to the gym, but I didn't go as often and didn't have a cheat day or week. I had cheat months.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I don't know if being that small is maintainable for me or not. My husband and I like craft beer. We like trying new beers. So and going out every so often. So I'm trying to find a size I'm happy at that I can maintain. And it's really frustrating for me being a clothes person, not fitting into my clothes, whether they're too big or too small. It was always frustrating. So I don't actually care what size I am right now. I just want to be that size forever so I can keep my clothes.
I hear you. And PN, I should say what I love about them is they really stress the mindset. It is not just about the weight or the size or whatever. It's really about self-approval and loving who we are. And so there is that, I think when you're on the journey, it is trying to, I mean, I didn't think that I was going to be at this space in terms of that. I wasn't trying to just sort of do weight loss per se, but I think it is also how do we, approve of ourselves? They're really into body positivity. What is sustainable? And their whole thing is like all or something. So a lot of us do all or nothing thinking, but some of this work is through an app. So there's always like a workout that you could do, and they have like positive messages, and you can work with a coach. But I really like their all or something because that is as you're talking about, like life intervenes, right? And so we don't want to feel. There are a lot of people that go in that program that they've had eating disorders or they've been very stringent. They're not into that. And I think for me, not that that was my issue. I think the mental, my coach called me a heartaholic, and she's like, why do you have to be a heartaholic with everything? And so for me, it was the second year was kind of doing more of the deeper inner work around, yeah, I just turned 56, but it's also like how to feel good in this body, not just the way it looks, but how to feel good with movement, how to feel good with, all the other things. And I think that's just also part of the journey.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to be in a place where I want to be strong enough that I don't hurt myself. I want to be a buff granny someday.
Oh, yes. I love that. Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Let's talk about your book a little bit. Tell me about it.
Mm. Well, I will say that everything. So I write across the whole universe of speculative fiction, and I do paranormal, horror, a little contemporary fantasy, sci-fi. I think everything I write mostly has psychological psychological horror to it. And I'm so proud of this book that's about to come out October 1st with Aunt Lute Books, called Doll Seed. And it's a collection of stories. Some of them are unpublished and relatively new, but many from the last 10 years. And it gives a good breadth, I think, of from length in terms of flash fiction to longer stories. But it's really taking people on this journey. Thematically, the stories relate to, I would say, the psychic inner lives and obstacles of women and girls of color, not exclusively, but that's thematically there. It also, I think, has ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, which is, I think, what speculative fiction kind of does well. And it has a little bit of alternate history. So I like to bring in like real life characters, like the writer Zora Neale Hurston. She makes an appearance in one of the stories. And I guess the last thing I'll say, a reviewer is really interesting, said, oh, these stories kind of, many of them deal with African American or Black characters and confronting anti-Blackness or confronting obstacles, and sometimes being able to navigate through them and sometimes not. So I think it has a bit of something for every kind of reader if they like speculative fiction.
Yeah. I started reading it. I am halfway through Doll Seed right now.
Oh, the title story.
Yes. And I just want to slap all those little dolls, the 26 dolls or whatever.
The Missy Anns.
Yeah, the Missy Anns. Yeah. I collected dolls growing up. So yeah, I'm really curious to see where that one goes. And I have to say, I was reading the Wendy's story driving back on a road trip with my family, and I had finished it, and like 15 minutes later my husband's like, let's stop at Wendy's for lunch. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, I've got a little bit of, kind of urban legend going on in that story, which is fun. And I tell people I actually did work at Wendy's when I was 16 and at Dunkin' Donuts.
I feel like you had to. Yeah. Does Wendy's really not let you go? Also, I was like, is Wendy's gonna come after her? Like, are they gonna get mad for this?
There's a part of me that would just love to kind of extend. So that's a short piece, but there are a couple of stories that I was like, I would love to kind of follow along some of those characters. I'll share with Doll Seed. It was interesting. So it's kind of contemporary fantasy in some ways, but it takes place in the civil rights era and kind of tries to think about the inner life of dolls during that time period. And it was a story that I wrote a while ago, and it took me, Rebecca, forever to land it. And I would, revise it and resubmit it and revise it and resubmit it. And I really believed in this story. I mean, I believed in it. And even though it's kind of unusual in lots of ways, and I just think sometimes for writers, we have to believe in our work, because sometimes we are ahead of the, gatekeepers at the time. And then it got published in the magazine, FIYAH, the magazine of Black Speculative Fiction, had very few edits. There were some edits on the end. They loved it. And then it won an award in 2019. And I feel not that like I justified, but I do feel like sometimes as writers we have to believe in our work, and it's really easy sometimes when we don't feel like, when we're not getting that earlier affirmation. And so I'm really pleased that it's in the story, and I really am so grateful that you're reading through it, because you are primarily have been doing more, from, at least this was a while ago, kind of romance, contemporary women's fiction. So I know like the the horror thing might be, it's not blood and guts. This is what I said in my email to you, right? It's not that kind of.
The funny thing is, I like, especially with the alien story, the first one, I started reading it. I'm like, I should probably not read this before bed. Like, I know this is going to take a turn somewhere, and it did get really creepy near the end. So, how did you get into the genre in general?
Mm. Yeah, I think everything I ever wrote, so I'm a kid of the 70s and grew up like a lot of folks, and particularly Gen Xers. I mean, my parents were great, but I was watching Jaws at like 7 years old and just watching The Exorcist, reading The Exorcist. So I think
Mhm.
I always had this sense of otherworldliness and just interest in otherworldliness, like things not fitting the way that we think that they fit. And so when I was a teen, I read a lot of like epic fantasy and that kind of stuff, and of course, influenced by Star Wars. And when I started to write creatively in high school, it just all came out as kind of fantasy, speculative fiction. And then in college, I would say I was supported in creative writing, even though my instructors really did not know what to do with me. Because now it's all cool. Like people are like Afrofuturism and speculative fiction and Neil Gaiman and just Margaret Atwood. And but at the time in the 90s, to do something that was not realistic, and anything, of course, that was in genre was, I think, in more traditional writing programs, not very supported. It's different now.
Mhm.
But that's always the kind of stuff that's come out. I have written more realistic fiction. So sometimes it's just what I feel like the story wants to come out as. But most of the time my work that's just the way my brain works. And then, I would say, in college, I got exposed to kind of more feminist speculative fiction, people like Ursula Le Guin and Margaret Atwood, and then Octavia Butler and others. And that really shaped my work. And then the African American literary canon, just kind of more on the realistic side. So all those pieces I feel like were influences in just the way that I like to tell stories.
So were you into horror? What's your favorite horror book or movie? Maybe growing up or now?
Oh my God. It's funny, my mother was a huge I would say horror media fan. She did also read horror, but that's how I got the Exorcist book. And she told me, it was like, I don't know, literally like 8 years old, and she was like, don't read that book. And I was like,
I'm
I
reading.
I want to read it, right? Because I know all the words. And then literally, Rebecca, I read the book, and I totally had this fear, like I would hide under the covers. Like I would hear certain music and I think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna get possessed. Like
Yeah.
crazy, right? So from the media side, my mom was a huge influence. And it's funny, my sister also loves horror, mostly horror media. And so I grew up with that. I read more of the fantasy sci-fi. And so it's actually been much more in the recent decade and a half that I've actually done more reading of, like, Stephen King and Dean Koontz and some of those people. And I will say, as wonderful as some of the traditional horror writers are, in terms of representation, both on gender and race, just not very, at that time, people writing in the 70s and 80s. I think it's just a bigger pool right now. So in terms of, I would say I didn't read a lot of horror work, but kind of being exposed to the culture and just loving it. And I would say one of my favorite ones has to be The Omen. I feel like, classic. I love, even though it scares me, I love that kind of, I have not ever tried to write like a real possession story, but I love that kind of, demonic possession, family struggling with that. But it's hard because I have a lot of the classic ones. A new one that I love is Hereditary. Hereditary, the same person who did Hereditary did with Toni Collette did Midsummer, which is, if you have people who are into horror, those are two intense ones. Or The Witch, which has been very popular, which is more kind of historical. Now, do you know any of these? Have you seen any of these?
I have not seen any of them. Some of them
Yeah,
sound familiar.
yeah, and I will do not have to see
Yeah.
it.
When I was a kid, I used to watch scary things, but as I've gotten older, I'm like, nope,
This,
I scare
this
easily now.
Well, and I do think, the world is, I think as for most people who write some level of horror, it's also to say, the world is it's a complex place, dangerous things can happen. It is, so sometimes we're kind of working out that the cathartic feeling of that. And I think that's why, people they don't like to be scared for long periods of time, but with a horror movie. Now, do your kids, do any of them like horror or kind of scary or slightly scary things?
I don't think they've watched too much of that yet. So no, they haven't gotten into it yet. But I mean, my oldest is 13, so maybe soon.
But they like Halloween. They like
Yes, yes, yeah, we all like Halloween. Are you into Halloween as a holiday?
It's so funny now as an adult, yes, but as a young person growing up in New York City, Halloween was a little stressful because you're I've heard from people who grew up in the Midwest that it's cold and you have your big coat
Mhm.
over. Now that wasn't so much true in New York, but just kind of like you just didn't know what kind of candy you were going to get. Like I feel like I for a long time also lived in the suburbs, and there's just like very traditional, like, oh, okay, we've got stuff going on here. Is not that way growing up. And then, you might kind of encounter kids who want to take your can. Like it was just, yeah. So
Yeah.
I have embraced Halloween now as an adult. And like my sister who lives near me now, we're totally into we doing October 1st is soon, and we're kind of just getting excited about the whole month of doing things. So it's not just one day, it's the whole
Oh,
month.
okay.
Spooky the whole month.
Do you guys dress up?
I have dressed up before, and I've even when I had pugs, which I love. I don't unfortunately we don't have any animals anymore, but I would dress them up, and the kids
No.
coming to the door just and pugs are pretty that my or at least our pugs were pretty good natured, so you can put that. They got dressed up for Halloween, and they got dressed up for in the small town we were in North Carolina. They were at one point they were Mrs. Claus and the helper elf, and so that they're very good natured about that.
Yeah, we always dress up our dog too. I think my
Oh,
yeah, my daughter I think it was last year. She went as an apple tree and dressed the dog up as an apple. I don't know where
okay.
she got that. And then this year, she and her friend are doing Sesame Street, which is a little weird as teenagers, but whatever. And then she's trying to think if she wants the dog to be a cookie for Cookie Monster or
Oh,
maybe Oscar the Grouch, but
oh my God. That is, what kind of dog do you have?
Australian Shepherd.
Oh, okay. Big.
Yeah, bigger dog. Yeah.
But it's sounding very supportive of being dressed up.
Yeah, she's pretty good about it. She just likes to be included. From your new book, what
Mm.
character would make the best Halloween costume?
Oh, I love this question. Oh my gosh. Okay. I think between either the title character Nusia, who is an extraterrestrial, I think that would be an interesting thing. And I attended Clarion a long time ago, which is a sort of a science fiction writer summer camp. They used to have Clarion West and Clarion East. Now it's just Clarion West or Clarion in Seattle. But I went to the one in Michigan. And you spend like 6 weeks, and writers come in, and it's amazing. Um, One of the people I was with hanging out, he was an artist, and he actually sketched what he thought Nusia would look like,
Oh
which
no
was
way,
really
that's so
cool.
cool.
And I think I still have those. And I think between that character, or if you read Edda Zora and the First Serpent, which is a little bit later in the collection, there's the First Serpent, and I think that could be a cool Halloween character.
Nice. That's the dream, right? Be at an event and someone comes in dressed like your
Oh,
character.
oh my gosh, yeah, totally.
I'm putting it
Cosplay,
out into the
yes.
universe.
Thank you. Yes, that would be so much fun. That would be, yeah, that would be so much fun.
So do you have events coming up? Are you doing a book tour or anything like that?
I do. Aunt Lute Books is an amazing press, and I'm so really grateful that they're gonna have me out in California. So I'll do two events in the in San Francisco and 2 events in Oakland, and that'll be roughly around the October 9th through the 12th. Then I'll be back. I'll be in North Carolina, and I have a event, a book reading. So in the events in the Bay Area, I'll be sort of in conversation with the executive director, Isis Azar, and then in North Carolina, I'll be doing I think a solo book reading, and then I have some events in Cleveland a little bit later in the month, and so that October is kind of very in-person focused, which is really fun. And then we'll just see. I think after that, everyone will be thinking about the election, so I've tried to pace myself to think, okay, well, late November, and then further on we can do more things. But so October, there's a number of things that are happening.
So have you already started to think about what you're going to wear to these events?
Rebecca, that's why I'm really one of the many reasons I'm excited to talk to you. I've started to think, because of travel and ease and like what we were talking about before, but I would love ideas.
I'm gonna start a Pinterest board and send you something.
Oh my goodness. Yay. Okay. I would love that. I would love that. And I know you've done stuff on like, travel and how to, think about your wardrobe when you're traveling. I think I'd like to do a little bit of that spooky, sexy glamour, but not something, those San Francisco, those hills. I do have black boots. I kind of lean toward black with, some embellishments. So yeah,
it works with the genre anyway. They're going to expect to see you in black anyway.
That's a good point, right?
Yeah.
That's a good point. I was thinking, oh, could I get like clip-on big, like fun Halloween like earrings, or just something fun.
Yeah,
but
totally.
not where I have to be stressed about too much.
What are you working on next, writing wise, or just taking a break and just enjoying the moment, which is good too?
I'm taking the break, enjoying the moment. A lot of writers will do a short story collection after they do a novel. That hasn't been my process. And so I do have I'm contracted to do this novel that I'm working on, and that will take place in the Great Dismal Swamp, which is between this huge swamp area between kind of borders in Virginia and mostly in North Carolina. And it'll be a contemporary story, a horror story, but it'll take place in the swamp. And so I have a question that I like to ask. I would say I have a draft of it. It needs a lot of work, but hopefully that'll be out next year. So when you think about the swamp, a swamp is an amazing place, very ecologically diverse, but what might scare you in the swamp? Is there something when you think about swamps that really would creep you out if you were in the swamp and had to deal with?
Oh, wow. Are there leeches in a swamp? I don't know. I picture myself in a boat and something like coming up and grabbing me. I don't know. In a boat.
Yes. I do have a scene, not with leeches, but with people in a boat that are having to navigate. Most people say snakes.
Oh, that makes more sense. Yes, there would be snakes in the swamp.
But leeches and just like squishy, the squishiness.
Just squishy gross. Anything squishy and gross. Or like something bumping your boat from the bottom. I don't know.
Oh, yes. I like that. I like that.
Any TV recommendations?
I went back and I'm trying to finish up Game of Thrones, which I know probably most people have already done. But I watched The House of Dragons, which I loved. I would say for people who want a completely unique and different experience is to watch something by Britt Marling, who's a director. She writes, directs. She did a 2-season series called The OA that is it's on Netflix, I think, still unlike anything you've seen before. It's like time travel, sci-fi, psychological. But she also did more recently, which is I think on Hulu, Murder at the End of the World, where all these tech people come and they're there to kind of pitch things. And there's a young woman who is also a tech person, doesn't feel like she fits in, and a murder happens. And it's kind of like a reimagining of a female Sherlock Holmes, but I think it's in a very, very cold place. I can't remember if it's in Norway or Sweden, but a very cold place. And it's a kind of a closed room murder mystery in some ways. And it's just Britt Marling stars in it and also directs it.
Oh, wow.
So if you're kind of in the murder mystery as we go into the fall, it's a good one.
Nice. Yeah, I think I've seen the OA on like every recommendations list. Like whenever we're looking for something to watch, that comes up, but we haven't gotten into it yet. Maybe we'll have to check it out.
Well, it has a unique, the first 10 minutes are not like anything I've seen before. But then I think people have to kind of stick with it because it's a little bit of, for a while, it's a little bit of a non-linear story, but it's so compelling that yeah, if you watch, you got to let me know.
Okay. I think those are all the questions I have. Do you have any last parting words of wisdom for us?
Oh, I think I'll just say that it feels really good to be in my late 50s, having been on the journey for a while. So for all the creators who are listening and watching, just allowing yourself to know that being persistent does really pay off. I had actually pitched this collection for a couple of years, and I entered like university press competitions, and I often got like honorable mention, but not the first place. And I just kept working on it, and I've submitted to Aunt Lute Books during an open submission process, and it came back 6 later. I had forgotten in some ways. I was like, oh well, I wrote the best query letter that I thought I could write, and it was really so magical when they were like, we love it, and the whole staff of 8 people had read it, and so just keep working on our dreams, and also be stylish. Take Rebecca's advice. Like, take all of her fashion advice because she knows what she's doing.
Thank you, Michelle, and congratulations on your book. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's so much fun to be here with you. Thank you.
Like I said, I have started I'm partway through Doll Seed, and it's the perfect time of year to read this book. But if you do get freaked out easily, maybe like me, don't read it right before bed. But it's not too bad. Like she said, it's not gory. Definitely go follow Michelle on Instagram. She has a YouTube channel, The Creative Tickle, so check her out. And I have created 4 outfits. For some reason, I incorporated leather. I think, speculative fiction, leather, I don't know. I just was feeling leather for this book tour for her, for all these outfits. So outfit number 1, she had mentioned some of the stores she had shopped at, so I wanted to incorporate those or similar stores. So outfit 1 is a leather blazer, these floral pants. Now, as she said, she's petite, so I think these didn't come in petites, but some of the others did. This black top with a little bit of asymmetry, which I thought added some personality, and then a chain belt. Because I'm all about the chain belts right now, and this one with the eye kind of was a little occulty to me. So, and then sneakers. For most of the other outfits, I picked black boots, and those would work here too. But I wanted to give her a sneakers option for something a little more casual. Outfit 2, I couldn't decide on a top, but I wanted something to match her book cover. So I wanted to do either purple or blues or maybe a combination of both. I love the Zara top that's kind of like a combination of both. That's very pretty. And then I found some petite black, these are jeans. Yeah, jeans, petite black jeans, and then a leather blazer to top it off, leather boots, keeping it really simple with this one, but then some like statement jewelry. So in this case, I found a doll necklace, but any kind of statement jewelry. I tried to add statement jewelry or statement accessory to each of the looks. So like, it's a conversation starter. All right, so 3, since she's petite, I wanted to do a mini skirt. I didn't want to do midi, maxi, no, nothing puffy, slim fitting. I considered like more of a pencil skirt, but petites are the perfect audience for this mini skirt. So a mini leather pencil skirt. And then I felt like velvet. Felt very, not only fall-like, but kind of spooky. Not spooky, but like almost a little witchy. And then a pattern tight, because I thought that would go really well with the with the skirt. However, it was looking a little too sexy. Not that she shouldn't be sexy, but it's not really the tone of her book. So I toned that down with the scarf, the skinny like open weave scarf. And the boots are kind of almost Victorian-like, which plays to some of her like older period pieces in her books. And then the doll earrings, creepy doll earrings that I found on Etsy. So, I mean, if she wanted to go out later, she could always just take the scarf off and have this little cute going out outfit. And with any of these, she could put a blazer on top if she wanted to look a little more profesh. And outfit 4, I wanted to keep it pretty simple again. However, I liked the idea of layering a sheer top underneath like a leather bustier or some sort of corset or bustier kind of thing, because again, it was kind of like the fantasy element of it all. So I found this leather bustier and this sheer top with the blue pattern that reminded me of the book cover. And then with just some simple straight leg black pants. Again, did not want any volume. That would overwhelm her, whether it was a billowy sleeve or a flare leg or wide leg. No, we're going streamlined here. And then the leather blazer on top to kind of do like almost a 3-piece suit kind of thing with the vest and the blazer and the pants. I thought that was cool. And then not that, I mean, if she wore like a mock turtleneck or a turtleneck, she wouldn't need a piece of jewelry, but I think a statement choker would be really cute with this outfit too. Those are my ideas. Everyone go check out Doll Seed. Again, I will leave the link down below and follow Michelle on her social, on Instagram. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the thumbs up button, consider subscribing and turning on those post notifications so you can be alerted right when I post a new video. I will see you next week for whatever I decide